It was one of those ordinary evenings at home, the kind where nothing seems out of place. I had just cleared the dinner plates and settled in to skim through a few lingering emails on my laptop when Melissa, my wife of 7 years, stepped into the dining room. Her posture was tense, her fingers drumming restlessly against the edge of her phone. Something felt wrong immediately, but I never could have predicted the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down, deliberately avoiding my gaze. Her voice came out low and hesitant. "So, I need to tell you something. I'll be traveling for a few days with Ryan." For a split second, I simply stared, waiting for the punchline, for her to crack a smile and admit it was some twisted joke. Ryan wasn't a casual acquaintance or a distant colleague. He was her ex, the one she had once assured me was firmly in the past, a chapter long since closed and forgotten. Hearing his name tied to a trip with her felt like a sudden, sharp blow straight to the ribs. My mind scrambled, refusing to accept it at first. Had I misheard? But no, she didn't laugh or backtrack. She just sat there, lips pressed together, eyes fixed on the tabletop, bracing herself. The silence between us grew thick and oppressive. Even as my chest tightened with a surge of disbelief and hurt, I forced myself to keep my composure. Exploding in that moment would only hand her the narrative she seemed to want, the jealous, insecure husband who couldn't handle a little independence. I wasn't about to play that part. After a long beat, I asked the only question that mattered, my tone even and controlled despite the storm raging inside. "Why?" She launched into her prepared speech without missing a beat, how it was purely work-related, how Ryan had valuable business connections that could open doors for her career, how I had absolutely nothing to worry about because she expected me to trust her completely. The words tumbled out so smoothly, so rehearsed, so utterly casual, as if announcing a weekend getaway with an old flame was the most normal thing in the world. It wasn't just careless, it felt deliberately dismissive, almost daring me to react. She wasn't hiding anything. She was presenting the betrayal openly, expecting me to nod along and accept it as reasonable. And as she talked, I caught the subtle glances she kept throwing my way, watching, measuring, waiting for the outburst. It dawned on me then, this was a setup. She wanted the fight. She wanted me to yell, to accuse, to plead, to unravel emotionally. That way, she could flip the script, label me controlling or paranoid, and walk away feeling justified. But I saw the trap clearly. Instead of stepping into it, I let her finish every last word. I gave a small nod, kept my expression neutral, gave her nothing to latch onto. Her rehearsed lines hung in the air, unanswered. When she finally ran out of explanations, another heavy silence settled over us. I leaned back in my chair, met her eyes directly, and said just 2 words. "Don't worry." The impact was instant. Her eyes widened, her mouth parted slightly in confusion. She had braced for anger, for tears, for desperate questions, anything dramatic. What she got instead was quiet, unshaken calm. It threw her completely off balance. She shifted uncomfortably. "Don't worry. That's it?" Her voice cracked just a little. I didn't answer. I simply held her stare for a moment longer, then turned my attention back to my emails as though the discussion had concluded. In that single motion, everything changed. She realized the dynamic had shifted in a way she hadn't anticipated. I was no longer the husband who would cling, beg, or battle to hold on. My composure carried a quiet finality that unnerved her far more than any shouting match ever could. The rest of the evening, she hovered, restless. She circled back again and again, asking if I was angry, if I still cared, if I even loved her anymore. Her tone grew sharper, more insistent, as she tried to provoke some kind of response. But I stayed steady. I moved through the night as if nothing monumental had occurred, making coffee, reading, handling small tasks, leaving those 2 words to echo in the space between us. The more I refused to engage, the more visibly unsettled she became. She had counted on having the upper hand, on steering the drama. Instead, she found herself grasping at air. By the next morning, I didn't linger to watch her pack for her trip. While she was in the shower, I quietly gathered my things into a bag. On the kitchen counter, I left the divorce papers I had prepared some time ago, along with a simple note, "Don't worry, I'm done." No long explanations, no final arguments, just the clear, written truth. When she emerged from the bathroom and saw them, the color drained from her face. But I was already out the door, walking away with my head high and my steps sure. Melissa had assumed she could test my limits, flaunt her ex in my face, and still find me waiting obediently when she returned. She had misjudged everything. The instant she announced that trip with Ryan, our marriage was over. My two-word response was merely the quiet period at the end of her choice. It was my declaration that I would never chase or fight for someone who showed such blatant disrespect. In the end, the most devastating response wasn't raised voices or shattered dishes. It was the calm certainty of those two words, spoken without heat, without pleading, but with absolute resolve. Sometimes, walking away in silence is the strongest statement you can make.